Hey guys, so I'm getting around to doing this video tonight. I wanted to do this video like last night in the sense that it's 3 in the morning. Um, so yeah, here we go. Got a few builds. Let's talk about them. See what looks good. But to start with, this is going to be my league starter. I've done a Scorching Ray Trickster before, but with the buffs coming to Scorching Ray and everything, and to Trickster, I'm pretty hyped about it. For the tree, I'll kind of go ahead and start talking about how I'm going to level it, and then go into the ascendancy and stuff and what's been changed. So normally I would have come over in this area, got that, maybe that life, but with this new setup, we'll just come here, grab the life, maybe get that for a little damage, and then just beeline it over here to this point. Once we get over here, we come up, get elemental overload, and down here to elemental equilibrium. That way our damage feels pretty good. With the buff, actually, it hopefully will be really good for leveling as far as just first time through. Feels pretty good. Hopefully it'll feel pretty solid. I've done this build as a league starter, straight up just using Scorching Ray several times, so it's been fine in the past. So now I'm hoping this feels actually really good for leveling, which is, we'll talk about that in the next build too. But from there, I'm probably, since I'm going to already be down here, come down here and get at least Constitution, maybe Quick Recovery, and straight down here to Discipline and Training. Depending on how the region's feeling, I might just pick it up Sanctity, and then I'll maybe come up here for little elemental resistances and fill in just the health wheel here as I need. Other than that, might have a shield early on, so that could be fun to go in and just pick up that, but not really necessary early on. But if I need the damage, it's an option. But for the main damage though, I'll probably branch over here, get that, at least get Purity of Flesh. And if I really need damage, I'll pick up those 3 nodes, and I'll pick up those nodes. It gives me some more regen, but that gives me a ton of damage there early on, and that'll make the build hopefully feel pretty solid all the way up till I start filling in the last few things, like over here Lucidity and Singular Focus. They added those 2 nodes, so quality of life for channeling skills. I am a life-based build, but every now and then you get stunned. Feels bad, so 40%, then taking these gets 90% chance to avoid being stunned, and this is wild channeling. You get -3 cost. Over here you get physical damage reduction, which is pretty nice. You don't really need that much cast speed, but hey, get some damage here, pretty nice bit of damage for those 3 points, pretty good bit of damage for these 3. Mind over matter, I'll probably pick that up sometime when my mana hits around about 900. That's around normally when I try to pick it up. If you've played Mind Over Matter before and have done it a little earlier than that, then go ahead, but it's just been my comfortable number, especially with Scorching Ray. So overall, this is the tree. Get the curse whenever you start looking like you're going to use either a Witchfire Brew or use a Despair on a Blasphemy. So let's talk about the gems. So first of all, let's look at Scorching Ray and why it has so much damage. So real quick, I do have this stuff ticked for what you're going to have, but this is just your consistent damage. This won't have anything to do with burst. Let's see, why is that even ticked? That doesn't do anything. Okay, so here we go. Scorching Ray, right now, 388.20. It's going to 488 at 20. So assuming it still kind of scales the same like this, at 22 it's 486. So that's 2 less. So assuming that it's still going to be a bit less than a plus, like a 21, at level 23 we're at 900,000. Even at 22 we're at 800. If that's our new base damage, cool. And this 25 Swift Affliction, we're actually not going to be using this. We're going to be using the new Channeling Support Gem. So you'll have Burning Damage, Elemental Focus, Efficacy, Controlled Destruction, and the new Channel Infusion, or whatever it is. So that has 49% more at max level. We'll use that right now for that. So the other benefit is we won't be using Swift Affliction, so we'll actually get a little bit more duration out of it, making you just feel a little bit better quality of life wise. Also, that new support gem will give us more tank, so that's another layer of reduction that we can get off of that. From there, to proc the Curse and Arcane Surge, either Orb Storms or Stormbrand. We'll see how much each of them cost and see which one's better to just have the Arcane Surge or just to have the Stormbrand, because Stormbrand just makes that easy. Clarity, Herald of Ash, and then right here I've got Vitality in. Really, what's going to happen is I want, well, actually, probably won't even be using Vitality. The only reason I've got Vitality is I've just got an All's Uprising kind of just there. The plan is to get an All's Uprising eventually for the new Malevolence, which I'm guessing is going to be pretty expensive. If it's too expensive, I'm not going to even go for it. If All's Uprising for Vitality is pretty cheap, then there we go, there's that. The other option is to go for, which also tends to be pretty expensive, the Impresence for Chaos, and then I can run Despair. That way I end up with Despair for free cost, and then I'll just shift things around. I mean, I don't have to even use a Golem if I really, like, I don't really have to use a Golem. It's not the most necessary thing. I can move Flame Dash or not even use Rallying Cry, really. And then just throw on Blasphemy, Despair, and it's good to go. And I can throw that in probably to just about anything. I kind of don't want to throw it into my 3 links because I hate having to retick things switching back, but if I don't have all my spells and stuff, if it's just something extra to press, fair enough. I just don't have to, I don't like having to switch to a curse or whatever, aura, and just turning it on. So as far as the rest of the gems though, Mortal Call, cast from damage taken, Fall Righteous Fire, increased duration. Oh, okay, cool. I was like, is that checked? So also, Fall Righteous Fire not checked. Boom, 1.1 million. Pretty juicy. And that is with the level 22. Assuming you could get a chest piece with a +2 duration. I mean, there's just a million outright, plus the normal +1. So I don't know if it'll go that high, but we'll have to actually check the numbers. So 678 might be a little steep, but we know it's going to at least be 488, which is more than that. And that's more than enough damage. That's actually pretty insane for Shaper damage. And that's without any flask. So, feeling pretty good. Shield Charge, going to use Shield Charge and Flame Dash. So, kind of just have some extra gems in there that I was just kind of thinking about. Rallying Cry, kind of cool. Could use Minion Life with the Stone Golem. If you don't have the Stone Golem, you lose a bit of regen. Stone Golem really gets insane when you actually kill something with a dot, so if you want to keep it, cool. If you don't, because it kind of can make stuff like Incursion kind of wonky when you go in, especially when you don't just instantly kill things with a hit, so I might get rid of him for those at least, but we'll see. If he's on a 3 link, I can just weapon swap and be done with it. But with that, we've got the items to go into. The items that I've chosen here is pretty simple things that you're going to be able to get pretty easily. Doriani's Catalyst, you can actually get better than this, so it's actually kind of more expensive than some of the stuff that you can get that are really close. Like this will be around 40 chaos, maybe more, due to the extra stats that it has, but for the straight elemental damage that it has, you can actually just get a normal scepter and just get close to this pretty cheap. 5-10 chaos maybe, rather than spending 40 or 50. Sometimes these are actually worth more at the beginning of the league. Next we got Unshattered Will. This will be from the Harbinger League, since they're actually putting it in on the Zana mod. We'll actually be able to use this pretty quick in the league. If anything, this will be a later in the league thing, and you can just use whatever shield you can get with fire damage, and that'll suffice. You could also do spell damage. You can actually get quite a bit of spell damage right now, so you could actually get a bit more damage than this shield has. But the main thing with this shield is it has the Summon Harbinger Focus, which is an insane buff that you get when you start channeling. He'll buff you, and that's immune to status ailments, stun immunity, and 20% damage reduction. Now again, it is the stun immunity, so I might change out of those points, but your immunity to status elements is pretty legit. So again, this isn't all the time, but this with Flask, I might not use the helmet that I've got here, and well, this is just really a placeholder for now. It's just the Rimner's Resolve. I might use this when fighting Uber Elder, just because it cannot be frozen or chilled, and that is the point of doing Scorching Ray again. It's one of my favorite builds to be safe for a league start, and I really want to see if I can push it to Uber Elder. So this build overall, I think it'll be pretty nice. Right now I've just got a Tabula. Like I said, you could probably get a +2 of this pretty cheap. Right at the beginning, you know, it gets a little expensive, but I mean, a little 2-3 weeks in, get a +2 duration Tabula. It's not that bad. It should be better than a +1. So, gloves, just life and resist is what you'll go for. Boots, life, resist. All's Uprising again, kind of explain that. If neither of them seem to be a good option, then there's the Impresence for Despair, and then if that's not good, just use a rare amulet with life resist, maybe a little spell damage or fire damage. Mark of the Shaper gets elemental damage and the spell damage there with an Elder Ring. Pretty big amount of damage. I mean, here I can just turn this off, and I do have fire damage on it, but I mean that's a pretty big jump in damage. So kind of gonna look for that combo at some point. If you can't do that, at least craft some fire damage rings. If they can't be opal rings, just do some core rings or whatever. Get whatever fire damage you can with an essence. It'll work. I mean, there's 2 core rings that have fire damage, still 800,000. Pretty nice. You don't have to have this. But again, belt, Stygian Vice, get as much health resist as possible. Try to craft something with a Scorching Fossil and a try to craft something with Scorching, Pristine, and Prismatic. That way you get around, I'm going to try to go for something with around 50% increased fire damage, so you can get fire damage, you can get elemental damage, and hopefully that adds up to somewhere around 50%. With that said too, the helmet, that's going to be what I'm going to try to use for the most part, is just a minus to nearby enemies resist fire helmet, and you make that with a, well, the same setup, Pristine, Prismatic, and Scorching Fossil. It comes from the Scorching Fossil. So jewels, I just went ahead and I've just got 33 life Abyss jewels with, and you could do 15% increased damage. You can just get a percentage life jewel and do burning damage or fire damage or minion damage, because again we're taking that minion node. These work. I mean, we still get the damage, you get a ton of life from it. It works out pretty good. These are actually ticked off, so let's go ahead and turn those on. Yeah, here we go. Let's for fun just throw on this burst. Boom, 1.3, and let's just say, just to, I mean, obviously we won't know till it's fully in, but just to speculate a little bit here, say you could get the +1 from just leveling it and a +2 chest. That's a lot of damage. Even without that, let's go ahead and kind of tone it down. Yeah, that's quite a bit of damage, but pretty hyped about it. Seems like it'll be pretty good. Jewels are pretty easy to get. Nothing too expensive here, other than just a few items, which, I mean, you can just replace pretty easily. I mean, like a lot of the stuff that it's for utility wise, we're not even seeing the damage here if you actually get one for like malevolence. So when you're going for the Trickster, Swift Killer is what we'll go for first, from the first Ascendancy. The +1 power charges and maximum frenzy charges is just insane. So you got 4 and 4, and you can generate them while channeling. You can do this before boss fights. You can do this, yeah. You're gonna have those up all the time. That's a huge amount of damage for just those 2 points. Then you'll come straight over here to Prolonged Pain, and then you'll pick up Weave the Arcane last. Before you would go Prolonged Pain, then do like either Swift Killer or Weave the Arcane, whatever you felt like you needed, and then you'd get the last one for Uber Lab. At this point, you just go straight over to Swift Killer first. But that's pretty much the Ascendancy. And it's, I mean, they buffed Prolonged Pain, and they buffed Swift Killer, so this build has gotten pretty good. I will say, that's why I have these two turned on. There's just a dot. Have I blocked recently? That's 30% damage. I probably should actually turn that off, but I mean, that's just a 10k damage buff, so not a big deal there. I just tick these just to see. They don't really do anything for this build, but I was just turning stuff on that could pertain, that it doesn't really change much. Other than that, what do we got? Shaper checked, cool. I'm pretty sure that's everything. So yeah, this build looking really good, pretty juicy. I'm hyped for it. I think it'll be my first time killing Uber Elder with Scorching Ray, and not just getting just a Shaper and farming the content okay for just a League starter. So, okay, so the second build, this isn't my strong suit. I have not done this build. I'm actually basing this build off of the video from MB Extreme. A couple of friends of mine want to do a Righteous Fire build, and they wanted something really tanky that can do all the content. Go check out MB Extreme's video. It's 3.5 Righteous Fire Juggernaut, still viable, all content. It is, he does Uber Elder with it and just shows how easy this build can do Uber Elder. And his gear really isn't the craziest gear here. That's actually a decent scepter, but I mean, that's probably one of the best pieces he has, and really the first two stats are kind of more your big stats there. The endurance charge is something you could craft on even just by itself, and then I'd say the +2 support is, I mean, there's a couple of things there, but nothing too insane on that you just need for a base. Saphless Frame, that's cheap. Cam's Heart's going to be the hardest thing to get, so I'm going to say I'd probably recommend a Tabula. Again, I will say this, not experienced with leveling this, so I'd probably recommend looking up a Righteous Fire leveling guide if you're going to do that. But I mean, it's I think I've got a pretty good idea. So I have leveled with Righteous Fire before, but that's been with items that I could level with Righteous Fire. So look at a League starting Righteous Fire guide to kind of help supplement this. But so for the Titan Greaves, 2% to life and mana regen. I probably should have put that in the notes. I do have stuff in the notes section here, so that'll be some extra help describing like the items. You definitely want that helmet. That's the big damage piece to get Righteous Fire doing its damage. So you definitely need the burning damage and conk effect if you really want to take this to, say, doing Uber Elder. Other than that, you can get more life than that's on these items. This is just an insanity crafted set of gloves. You don't have to have it, but it definitely makes things like clearing feel a little bit better. Get around a lot faster. Marble Amulet for the regen, 2 Cam's Ways, so you get the plus endurance charges because you're using Juggernaut Ascendancy. The big thing here on the belt is to make sure you have the increased life recovery rate, and you want to get that as high as possible. Witchfire Brews here. Forbidden Taste, that's just a nice little, I mean, you're regening so much, you're not going to degen yourself with that. Rumi's Concoction for that block. Got Sulfur Flask, Quicksilver Flask to help get around. There's a bunch of jewels here. All of them are 7% life and with 2 stats for fire and burning. Those do get a little expensive, that's why I didn't have them in my build. So those are probably the other expensive thing in this build, with the Might of the Meek. And then the Watcher's Eye, this could go for a little bit, but definitely something you can work toward in this build. None of these items are like way too out of reach that you couldn't progressively work toward them. Maybe pick up the Might of the Meek and then the Watcher's Eye last kind of thing. You definitely want to beeline it for this helmet as soon as possible and the Cam's Heart together. That combo is pretty nice. The Tabula setup that I've got in the skills, probably will give you more damage just starting out till you get a Cam's Heart. But I would say level it with Scorching Ray, and that's what I was talking about in the Scorching Ray build, is you probably could just level this with Scorching Ray and it'd be just fine. So eventually you'll use just a 3-link Scorching Ray in that kind of scepter type setup. Also for a cheap scepter, you can get the Bellfire Scepter. It's pretty cheap, very inexpensive, and that can just start you out. Gives you pretty solid Scorching Ray because it's level 25. Now with the buffs to it, that might actually be pretty nice. Leveling Scorching Ray, here's the supports you can use. Also that new support, I just kind of ticked 2 things here just to kind of use new channel support. So Vol Righteous Fire and the Tabula, you can either use the efficacy increased area of effect combo, which is, we'll talk about that in the helmet, or you use the Arcane Surge Swift Affliction combo to get more damage than these two, but this definitely feels better. So up here with Vol Righteous Fire, you either got the more damage side or you use area effect and efficacy. A little bit better feel, but again, it's up to you however you want to play it. Shield Charge to get around, that's pretty cool. Stormbrand to go ahead and for Elemental Equilibrium and Elemental Overload. It's got a Culling Strike on it, that's pretty nice. Enduring Cry to help get those charges fully sustained. Purifier because you're Righteous Fire, and Vitality because, well, yeah, that helps. It does have a level 4 in power, but again, that's something you can work toward. Nothing too crazy there. On the tree itself, I kind of have these labeled, so I have finished build-ish because, like, you can change some points around here. This is a 97. If you take it that far, cool, but you can get rid of, say, those 3, and then you're down to a 94. I didn't mention that on my Scorching Ray build, but I have these 3 with another jewel, and the build is just 91 instead of a 94. But here's a 94. Then you can get rid of, depending on how this feels, maybe those 2. But that's probably all I really try to trim off of this tree. If you get good resistances on everything, maybe the fire res there. Other than that, yeah, that's pretty solid. As far as the damage and stuff, it looks good. Again, you can watch the video to see him do an Uber Elder kill. It's not the fastest, but it is insanely safe. You got Unstoppable for the movement speed. I will say go the Unflinching first to get that power charge and power charge generation, and then if you feel like you need Unbreakable or Unrelenting, one of those next, and then just get Unstoppable last. I mean, you really probably won't need it to do Overlap. But yeah, like I said, I got these labeled, so early on tree. Again, I would also recommend looking up a actual starter Righteous Fire build to make sure that this doesn't sound too outlandish, but I think Scorching Ray will be fine to level with, and then you kind of can just convert it to a Righteous Fire build when you get later on into the game. But yeah, that's pretty much the Juggernaut Righteous Fire. Again, calculations here, got everything ticked just to do as much consistent damage that you'll be doing as possible. The Consecrated Ground is ticked, so your regen isn't that crazy all the time, but not too bad. Definitely really solid, definitely something that can do everything in the game and feel pretty safe about doing it. My friends, though, that are starting this might be switching to a low life Righteous Fire Guardian eventually, so we'll see how that goes. But at least to start, this is going to be their jumping off place. Again, the more health you have, the more damage you deal with this, so solid build. Anyway, let's move on to the third one. Now, a friend of mine kind of sent me this tree, and I kind of just threw something together real quick. So we'll look at the tree. It's meant for an Elementalist. I kind of plan on doing, with how it looks, Divine Ire Elementalist, so maybe not Elementalist is what I'm going to do this with, but I'm probably going to do a Fireball Inquisitor. I can show that here in a minute real quick, but it's just throwing out some numbers. We got 874,000 damage just from Fireball, and it's based on the hit, the actual explosion, not a burn build. So the burn is just kind of extra, 50,000, not bad, pretty good. So you don't have to use Elemental Focus, you can just use Combustion, and you're pretty much igniting all the time, so you get that extra burn. On a lot of enemies, that won't be too bad. You're looking at 80,000, so you're going to kill things running around pretty fast. Power charge generation because of the staff that I will talk about later, so let's turn that off. There we go. So even still, 784,000. This would also be a Lyra, so I might have messed up on the points there. Yep, 95. Oops. So we might just dip that down. There we go. And let's at least count that as a rolling fire, rolling flame, or whatever it is. So Searing Touch, just a decent little staff you can start with, not too bad. Rimner's Resolve, again just a placeholder for what would be a minus resistance helm, which means this does even more damage. Mark of the Shaper, Outer Ring combo, then just life resist on all the stuff here, and just literally life on that jewel, and life on these. So no damages on these yet, and we're looking at 790,000. So feeling pretty good about Fireball. Again, I kind of did the same thing. I went ahead and gauged it off of the new stats for Fireball as far as what it's got. So let me take it out of this weapon. So we're looking at, oh, the Empower. I was kind of like, wait, what? So again, without it, let's turn the Empower off. So now you're in a 5-link essentially, and this is close to what the damage will be. So you're looking at 474,000. Worst case scenario. So then you get +1 in power and in the weapon. That's a lot of damage. So feeling pretty good once you do that. GMP for the clear, down to 500,000. Not too bad. Power you won't have too early, so you can just bump that down if you want to feel a little comfortable about how the damage is looking, depending on if you normally get an power up that high or not. Scorching Ray, probably going to go on a totem was my idea. Fall Righteous Fire on something. Orb of Storms, Arcane Surge, that kind of deal. And maybe Curse on Hit with the Flammability. And then Herald of Ash and Anger as the two things. Maybe running in All's Anger so that it doesn't cost anything. Because this is planned to be Mind Over Matter. So if you're not going to want to try for All's, I would probably say stick away from Anger. Just so you have enough mana for the Mind Over Matter to feel pretty good. Other than that, we do have a couple of self-cast gems for support that we can look at, so this could go up in damage, but with what we've got currently, this is a pretty good number. Let's go ahead and go a little bit expensive here, and let's just say you multi-modded a staff that you got either isolated, and I can't remember, that would be 3 prefixes, I guess. So you isolated the prefix, and then you could have, I think, a random suffix on there as well. So pretty easy to craft if you just get the one and all. So that's not too bad. And you're looking at 900,000 here, but again, you're going to actually be generating the power charges. So you're looking at over 1 million damage with that. Again, let's turn things down. So Anger's off. So see, that can get it even higher. The Fireball. So let's say tune that down, just the 20, and then I mean we'll bump it down to its current 20, and that's actually pretty good damage for what it already is. With the Empower plus the power charge on crit support there, looking pretty good. I don't even have Flask picked for this, so this was another build for League Start that I thought about doing. But I've done Scorching Ray before, and I really kind of want to see how far I can take it, so that's why I'm doing that. Other than that, like I said, I'll probably do an Inquisitor, so just to kind of compare the damage here. Again, for the Ascendancy, go straight for the Mastermind of Discord and Beacon of Ruin first, sorry. And this will, you get benefit from the Pendulum on both sides, so that's always nice. What you don't get to see here is the 20% more damage essentially that you get from shock. Then also you'll just want a little bit of lightning damage just so that you're always shocking things. Which means you can do an Impulsa if you really want to. It's pretty good, I guess. No, it's pretty good. Let's see, I'll just keep these because I think they're the same damage anyway, so I'll just go ahead and, oh, there we go. I'll connect it that way. So this would be roughly the same damage though, only changing the ascendancy itself. And as cool as the Consecrated Ground is, probably not gonna jump onto that bandwagon too much. And looks like, okay, so yeah, it's actually a little bit higher, but pretty much the same deal. So it doesn't feel too bad as far as just doing that change. Again, so yeah, 93 point build, looking pretty good. Definitely staff based, taking all these staff nodes. As far as how I would level this, either starting out Inquisitor, go here, get these with the Elementalist, take these, come down and get these. Probably beeline it over here, get those, and then up and get these. Actually, there's a point that you can save. Right there. There we go. So there you go. Now it's a 92 build. Boop. So yeah, yeah, pretty much same thing. Then beeline it over there, get those, get this health up here so that you're kind of branched out. If you really need the damage, then fill that will in. Other than that, once you start getting high enough crit, there's crit multi, crit multi, crit multi, some flat damage and some crit chance there. Pretty nice. That also has a little crit multi, crit multi, and then, well, crit multi. So, oh, and these are actually really nice too. Got the crit chance and cast speed, so that'll feel pretty good. But anyway, there's 3 builds. Kind of little draft of one. Hopefully an in-depth thing on the Righteous Fire, because it's definitely not something I'm as comfortable with. So I try to explain that as much as possible. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments down below. If you have any comments, go ahead and, yeah, if you have any improvements to any of these, would like to know. But yeah, hope to see you on Twitch. I stream at twitch.tv/EG_Magnum. Links will be in the description down below. POBs will be in the description. And yeah, good luck in the next league. Hope to see you on Twitch. Peace.